The Parades Commission decision to reroute the Whiterock parade was the spark which exploded already tense Protestant communities in the west of the city and across Belfast into some of the worst street violence since the 1970s. The violence, injuries and damage, totalling hundreds of thousands of pounds, could have been avoided had the government heeded a chorus of warnings from every quarter of the Protestant community. Billy Mahoney, Worshipful District Master of No. 9 Lodge, warned Security Minister Sean Woodward and the PSNI that trouble was looming.
I told them of my fears for the Whiterock Parade on the 10th of September. I told them the feelings of the Loyalist community in and around the Shankill Road, and indeed in Greater Belfast, if not all across the country as a whole. And he said he would look at this, and consequently he obviously did, but nothing materialised, as everyone now well knows.
So basically the parade was on a collision course. Everybody's saying, we've had other commentators saying that police were well and amply warned that there would be confrontation, that there could well be violence, but yet they still stuck to the Parades Commission still stuck to their decision.
Yes, I'm sorry to have to be the one to actually say and admit that as well, but I also met with the ACC Belfast, Duncan McCausland, on two separate occasions. And I warned Duncan McCausland in no uncertain terms that things were actually getting worse by the day, and that the likelihood of violence was becoming almost inevitable if they didn't do something to find an accommodation. The response I got from Duncan McCausland that day was simply, I will enforce the Parades Commission's determination regardless of what it takes. And I warned him that, in my view, is a recipe for disaster.
The Orange Order weren't alone in their fears.
In the case there with the Whiterock Parade, the way in which the government simply ignored all the warnings that were given the week before. In fact, when people warned them what was happening, you were castigated and condemned for warning them. Now, in the case of the 12th parade at Ardoyne, Father Aidan Troy was lauded and commended in the media when he warned that there would be violence at Ardoyne. When we warned that there would be violence at Whiterock, we were told that we were whipping things up. It shows the different approaches to different communities from some sections in the media. But we warned them that week, and yet, even when you had Dr. Ian Paisley and Sir Ray Gyampi leading a cross-unionist delegation along with the North and West Belfast Parades Forum and the Orange Order to meet government ministers, to meet Sir Hugh Ord, still there was no recognition of the problem, and they refused to listen. And the train was running ahead, and the point came where it just ran into the buffers.
Whatever the reasons for the Whiterock disorder, serious questions are being asked about police behaviour on the day. You were an official observer at the Whiterock Parade. Tell us some of the things that you saw that day.
Well, we went through the gates onto Springfield Road, and Norman Hammond, who's a minister in the Presbyterian Church here, and I were the two observers. And we were behind the parade going up to Springfield. And then the parade decided, it would stop halfway up the Springfield Road and have a bit of a sit-down protest. So that was put in motion. The police then began to, try and push people further on up the road. A bit of tension at that particular time. And then we had an Army Land Rover that decided that, it would just push on through the ranks and got, past 3 or 4 people, and then a crowd got round the Land Rover and it stopped. And spoke to the police, and the Land Rover remained there. But the tensions were building all the time. And then there was some catcalling from people, obviously, from Watermouth Street and that. And then we proceeded on up the road, and then as we got near the top of the road, the police in Radgear were, almost in contact with the back of the parade. One of the dog handlers, seized his dog on one of the marchers, and he bit him on the back of the leg. And then another officer came out and, thumped one of the marchers with a baton. A lot of catcalling, name calling, all that sort of stuff. Well, it came to the roundabout, then the water cannon came out, and there was a bit of well, you turn the water on. Well, you've seen the photographs yourself.
Why did the police start to use the water cannon when there was no violence, no disturbance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, how the operation. Who decided on the operational content of the policing operation that day? But it was pretty poor now. There didn't seem to be any coordination between various parts. And the other thing was that the police now should have known that tensions were going to be very high in there. And instead of policing the thing in order to reduce the tensions, it seemed to me as if they were policing it to almost inflame the tensions.
The police were determined that they would police the Parades Commission's decision regardless of whether there would be violence or not. And I thought that was a completely intransigent approach by the police service, and consequently the inevitable did happen.
On the matter of the police video footage that was handed to the media and obviously used extensively, what do you feel about that?
I thought that was very biased and one-sided, but you come to expect nothing else, frankly. The camera does not lie, but the camera will show you what it wants to show you. All the video footage to date, I hasten to add, has been from the Police Service of Northern Ireland. It has naturally been all against those who they saw as the opposition that day. I was saddened and anguished whenever Orangemen were, along with members of the Loyalist community, were actually having to respond to the police brutality. But that was why that actually happened. It was the brutality of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, who were battering women and children, who were shooting at 7-year-old children's heads with rubber bullets, who were water canning all and sundry for absolutely no reason.
Four bands and the Orangemen came down the West Circular Road, parading past my house. My nephew, he's only 14, he was in the first band. They just walked down to the end of the West Circular Road. They stopped and just stood there playing. Then the next thing, 2 big water cannons appeared behind the police lines. It was very ominous looking. I was concerned for my nephew. The water cannons started up and they were all scattered, and that's when the Loyalist crowd started walking down towards the scene. I can remember a couple of fellas saying, "Look, stay back," and then the riot police started coming forward from the roundabout. They moved up the road till they were more or less outside my door. There was hand-to-hand fighting between the police and Loyalists. It went mad in seconds. I started crying. There was a whole load of wee girls from the Highfield estate with their wee babies just outside my house, and they were trapped in the middle of it all. I shouted to them, "Get the kids into my house." They all ran in, prams and all. I've still got a pram out the back, belonging to somebody. I don't even know whose it is. The rioting got worse and worse. I really panicked. My daughter Susan was in the house with Rihanna, my 13-week-old granddaughter. I was really worried about Rihanna. The noise was awful. Banging, crashing, shouting, screaming. I pulled the blinds and we all cowered in the back kitchen. It seemed to go on forever. People were running everywhere, up the side of my house, through my backyard, and I heard things hitting the roof. Then people started banging on the front door. People were terribly injured, a lot of head injuries, and there were a couple of rubber bullet wounds. People just wanted sanctuary. No ambulances could get in to help the injured people. The police had the roads sealed tight.